Right now, though, I think you should narrate this.
Okay. Yeah, I know it'd be a little awkward from your perspective, but Saturday at high noon down in Galveston at the Galvez Hotel, there was the induction ceremony for the 2014 Texas Radio Hall of Fame class, which included, of course, our own Michael Rhyner.
Yeah.
Now, the Texas Radio Hall of Fame is relatively new. I didn't realize this until I went down there and started doing some snooping. But this thing was started only about 12 years ago. So it's actually really new. Now, I don't know if other states have this going or if there's a National Radio Hall of Fame or what, but
I don't think there's a national, but some states do.
Yeah, and Josh Robertson? Halstead. The guy that runs it, he's got Dallas ties, and he's incredibly proud of the institution known as the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. He claims that it is the absolute best. And one thing that when you go through the people that are in there currently, if you grew up in this area like I did, and you listen to the radio quite a bit, is who didn't? You know, it was just part of your life. Everybody that it seemed like that I listened to back in the day that I thought was a larger-than-life character, the Redbeards, the Labellas, the Roadies.
Elliot was a big one for me.
Yeah, those guys are all in. Those guys, they made their mark, and it was clear. Kid Craddock, you know, it's
Chapman.
The ones that you remember from your childhood, if you do have those guys, they're in there, and you know they all meant something, and it kind of puts it all in perspective what this thing is all about. Now, there's a lot of people in there that I have no idea who they are because, you know, 75% of them are from outside the DFW market, and I wouldn't know them anyway. A lot of them are dead or 95 years old or whatever. But, you know, these guys that are in their late 50s, early 60s or whatever, there's a lot of those people that are in there right now that got in there in the last 5 or 6 years that meant so much to local radio around here. And it's anybody and everybody, and it's not just the on-air personalities either. If there's someone that's a significant, like Jerry Bobo, if there's some big general manager-y type guy that has meant a lot to the business side of things.
Yeah, there are a few engineers in there, too.
Really?
I mean, it's very all-encompassing. If you spent significant time in the business and in view of whoever decides these things made some sort of significant contribution, then you get in.
Yeah. But, you know, you look through there, and there's Stevens and Pruitt's in there. Norm, of course, is in there. When did Norm get in?
That's great.
Who knows?
Bob Elliott, though.
Sure.
Bob Elliott is not in.
Well, it's too bad, because that son of a bitch had pipes.
He needs to be in.
Massive pipes.
Was he real little, too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Redbeard?
I was shocked when I met him.
He's a rather diminutive fellow.
What does he do now?
I don't know. He might work up with us in the Cumulus family.
Really?
Up north there.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I'd love to meet that guy.
I think Norm was the 04 class.
Okay. So, it's a really big deal once you start thinking about it and once you put it all together and driving down there. I drove down on Saturday morning. Now, you were already there. You flew down Friday night. Mm-hmm. And your family was there, Renee was there, and Jordan was there, and your sister made it.
Right.
Your brother-in-law, your nephew.
It was my peeps.
Yeah, it was a really cool family affair. And I drove down. I left my house at about 7 a.m. on Saturday morning and trying to make it down there by noon. And I did. I made it down there.
At 11:45.
I made it down there pretty easily, though.
That was very cool of you.
Well, thank you.
Let me just say that publicly.
Thank you. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. But getting down...
I had to do the orphanage at a Academy Sports and Outdoors. Otherwise, I would have gone, too. And I had to attend the TC wedding that
weren't
night.
You a flower girl at TC's wedding?
Yes, I shot flowers out of my rear end.
So I had a relatively stress-free time getting down there, and made it in there, changed into my suit.
Yes, he wore a suit.
I hope it wasn't the suit that he wore to Jake's wedding.
No, I had a nice tie and everything on. So I get in there, and they have you walk into this ballroom that they have at this hotel, which is right on the water. It's a gorgeous old hotel. We were talking about it earlier, talking about Galveston, but it's a really, really neat old hotel that was built at the turn of last century.
So this was at the Galvez?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they had it in a big ballroom.
Sure.
And you walk in there, and each table is designated, not every one of them, but there are 16 people getting inducted, and each of the 16 had their own table. So you had the Mike Rhyner table, you had the Tommy Chang building table. Yeah.
You had the Outlaw Dave table.
Yeah. You had the Irene Runnels table. So you had all these.
You had the Coconut Frank table.
Yeah, Rio and Reyes table. So you go in there and they throw down some nice lunch for you, some nice beef tips.
Was it beef tips Dijon?
It was some sort of flank steaky type of thing. It wasn't bad, actually.
They just microwaved a bunch of crap from Gribble's freezer and dumped it in a pot.
It was good. And it was full open bar on the other side, which was nice.
That helped.
Which was nice. And so you sat there and you ate, and then at about 30, 40 minutes after that, they start the ceremony. I was shocked at how it ran. You had to have been too. I mean, it was it was seamless. It was
very, very smooth and very well done.
So they open up with a big video presentation on the screen up on the stage, and Bill Young, is that his name?
Yeah.
So this one was dedicated to Bill Young.
Is that the KERA guy?
No, different Bill Young.
Okay.
Yeah, but this guy
was huge. He was just enormous. He was the voice of virtually every radio station and many major national corporations in the nation in his time.
He had that voice, and he was that guy.
He was the concerts guy. He was the car guy. He was just everything. You've heard his voice so many times, it's not even funny.
I could not believe all the stuff that he did, from acting to voice work to, all the on-air stuff. It was crazy. That guy was a major, major player.
Huge.
In the Texas radio TV scene. So they opened up with a video for him, and then they kind of did like a little thing promoting the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, and then they got right to it. It was time for each one of these guys to do their thing. And what they did was, and you knew this going into it, but they would get, for whoever was being inducted, they would have someone voice a little piece. Now, who wrote? Did you have a hand in writing this?
Yeah.
Okay, you wrote it.
Yeah.
Okay, and you had Dan Bennett voice yours.
Actually, I didn't have him. I just gave it to Josh. I didn't know who was going to do it.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know that it was going to be that way, but once the ceremony began and I began to see the drift of things, I thought, oh, God, I wonder who they're going to get to do mine. I thought it might have been you.
Yeah, well, it's funny.
Or you.
No, if that had fallen to me, I would have emailed it to Hip Hop Paul. Let him read it.
Well, they had different people.
Cuddy.
They had like sons, of people reading it, of coworkers, whatever. And it was funny because this guy who runs this thing, Josh, he, again, he's got local ties.
Yeah.
And I had called him on the phone because I didn't have a ticket for this thing, and I was in a full-on panic, and he said, look, just come down here, give me the $50, and we'll set you up, no worries. Which I did, but then he started telling me stories about, he goes, hey, if you get me drunk enough, I'll do my fake Dan Bennett for you. So he's very acutely aware of Dan Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
He had worked with him at some time in his life. So, but it was, all these videos were really cool because they had all these really old photos of all these guys that were being inducted, of when they first started out at whatever station they were on. And a lot of them, they had like college radio photos. Some of them they had when they were little kids practicing radio. I mean, these people were radio journeymen.
Lifers.
They knew at a really early age, most of these people at least. Didn't you get that sense?
Oh, yeah.
That this is what their life was going to be.
Yes, this is what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So the video presentations were all about 3, 4, 5 minutes each, and then each individual or team group would get up there, and then they would give a little speech. And everybody did a great job. And the one thing that I noticed was that all these guys, or at least 90% of them, had these incredible voices.
Yes, they did.
And these were old guys, too.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are getting on up there, but boy, they still have pipes.
I was really scared because there were about 4 or 5, about 30% of these people were to the point where they had to walk up these stairs to get to the podium. And dude, weren't you thinking we were going to have an accident?
I was keeping my fingers crossed that we wouldn't.
Oh, man. You'd see these guys kind of limping up there. These are guys in their 80s, pushing 90 type thing, you know? And they'd make, get a hand up there or whatever. Mike was the second youngest guy to get inducted. Yes. And you know who the first youngest was?
Who's that? Mike Wade?
No, that would be Tommy Chang.
Oh, yeah, Tommy Chang.
Whose table was directly in front of us. So Tommy Chang is this, and it's spelled Chiang. He, I guess, and I talked to a couple people afterwards about him, he is a legendary country DJ from Houston. And he can't be any more than early 50s.
If that.
He looked he had little kids at the table.
Yeah.
His table, and this table was right next to us. But he looks incredibly Asian.
And he's a country music DJ?
Yes. And a huge one. He's been doing it for years. There's his signature call. So, but Mike was a spring chicken compared to a lot of those guys getting up there.
And you know what else you would have noticed if you were there? That is that nobody had any idea who I was.
Well, it's good to fly under radar, man.
This was very Houston, San Antonio, some Galveston.
Well, a little
bit of East Texas thrown in.
Dude, a lot of people worked in the Dallas market, though.
Yeah, there were some that came through.
But well before the ticket.
Yeah, and, they were names that I know, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
Like John Hyatt.
Right.
And that's a name that I've heard for years, but I've never met the guy.
I mean,
I couldn't tell you exactly what the deal is with it.
This was for each individual that was inducted. It was for their group. I knew some of the names too. I'd heard of some of the names before, but 95% of them, I didn't know who they were. And so when they got up there and spoke, I was fascinated by their story, though, because they all had incredible radio, just stories that would come from some sort of history book. Most of these guys starting out at certain places and moving to another place and back and forth to the same radio station 3 or 4 times. It just shows you here what we have too. Everyone staying here for basically 20 years straight.
Yes.
Wasn't a damn one of those people that worked in one place for 20 years. It was maybe one.
Did you mention that in your speech?
No, I don't think I mentioned that per se, but I did talk a lot about, about what we, not me, but we have done here and what we have here.
Because I bet that would blow a lot of people's minds that don't know anything about this market, that we've been able to keep the big, 4, 5 intact for 21 years almost.
Yeah.
Really.
No, it's amazing.
That's so unheard of.
Mike was near the end, and I thought you did a great job because I know you were kind of flying off the cuff, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You did a good job.
And I got up there and I just folded. I didn't know what to do.
Did you go up there and start stammering like you do in here?
No, I didn't stammer.
You can give him a one-up, what up?
Nope, there was none of that. Could have been, though.
He talked about how blown away he was by it all. And you know what?
And man, favorites is?
The longer it went, the more, you see these people up there and you hear their stories and what they meant to certain towns. And like Mike said, there were some East Texas guys, small town people that made it to this thing that were just in awe of it all. But I got the sense that you were too.
Yes.
And rightfully so.
There is no question about it. I know people who are in this thing that didn't even go to their own induction. That just couldn't care less about it.
Right.
But man, I am not one of those.
No.
I am just, I am thrilled by this.
It was an incredible honor.
And I have to tell you, and this is something I've probably never said anything like this on these airwaves before. Ever since then, I've just had this whole sense of validation wash over me.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Rightfully so.
I mean, I feel like, because of this, all this stuff that I've done in here over the years, And, from the start and up until now is sort of validated in a way.
Well, just look at it from the standpoint of where you started. And Danny and I were talking about this.
Yeah, started from the bottom.
Now we're here.
We were talking about this on Friday after you left, but, just taking the chance of just getting into radio in the first place, which that was a huge risk for someone that at 31 or whatever you were trying hey, I'm going to get into radio.
Yeah.
And then, you did. You start at the bottom and then you intern and you kind of work your way up and force your way into someone's show and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah.
And it's a really good story. Your story was great. The sad part is, and this will wrap things up, was that so they finished the ceremony completely and Josh, the guy who runs the Hall of Fame, gets up there and he speaks. And they had done this this whole presentation to wrap things up.
Oh, yeah, it's over.
It's over.
Lights are coming up.
Yeah, and Josh comes up and he's talking about the video and how great the night was and how we're going to Austin next year. And that's the cool thing about this, too. They move this from city to city each year.
Yes, they do.
I just thought it was always in Galveston, but next year it's in Austin. So they're done. It's over. And I turn around and I start talking to Mike's sister and brother-in-law, and we're having a conversation, and then the lights go back down. I'm like, what the hell? And people are getting up and leaving, and here comes Outlaw Dave, the last inductee.
They forgot.
They forgot Outlaw Dave. And he kind of saunters up there, and he didn't really seem to care, and he had a pretty funny speech, too. But, dude, what if they would have... I mean, how did they know that they had forgotten him?
Somebody said something. Hey, you guys forgot Outlaw Dave.
They must have.
Yeah, it hurts to miss that one.
We were kind of in the back.
What a scramble, though, to try to fix that.
Oh, yeah. Outlaw Dave started his career.
People are halfway to their cars.
That guy probably was the most significant guy to those in the room of anybody. Because it sounds like he's just had a hellacious career working at KLOL in Houston and moving and being a morning DJ and a successful one, and then moving over into the talk realm.
Yeah. It was nice,
Congratulations, Holmes.
Well, thanks, man.
Good day.
Thanks. It really was a good day and one I will remember from now on. And I don't care who knows it.